Well, when I was sitting at home on the couch September 11th, 2001, I seen the Twin Towers coming down. And I said I wanted to do something then, but didn't get nothing accomplished until I joined the Army January 29th of 2002. Shortly thereafter, March of 2003, we were in Kuwait ready to push forward to Iraq. And ironically enough, my little brother joined as well about the same time. And since I was in Fort Hood, Texas, and he was in Germany, we didn't get to see each other for about a year and a half. And we crossed paths in Kuwait 2 days before me and my company pushed into Iraq. So little celebration, getting ready to go into the war zone. It's kind of crazy, really. But I just really wanted to do something other than what everybody else was doing back home, and that's why I joined the Army. I didn't want to be the guy sitting at the same bar stool at 30 years later. And I found myself as a soldier. I really did. I didn't think I was joining but for 3 years just to try it and see what it was like, and I really found out who I was. Went to Iraq as a PFC, and then I got promoted to a sergeant by the time I got home. But I was the major's tank driver whenever I was in Iraq the first time. And we didn't get to go out the wire much after things settled down and we actually had a base that we were living on. So I always volunteered to go out with the headquarters scouts on their missions. Well, we didn't have body armor for tankers yet, not until 8 months into the deployment. So I was always riding it. They called me cowboy style, kind of just going out and getting in the fight with missions with the headquarters scouts. And I quickly earned the name the infamous bullet magnet, or the infamous Bravo Mike is what they called me over the radio. I still can't figure out if that was a good nickname or a bad nickname. But I loved what I was doing. I was moving up fast. In August of 2003, we got into there was an RPG attack. It was like simultaneous everything, RPGs, artillery, machine gun fire, and they were walking them into our trucks, like trying to walk it in because their aim's not the greatest, or it wasn't then. And the RPGs and artillery were getting closer, and I was getting ready to jump out the other side to take cover. And as I was jumping, something blew up. Nothing hit the truck or anything. We think it was artillery, and the concussion flipped me over and slammed me down onto my back. And I was hurt pretty bad, but there was a fight to be fought. And back then we had the term suck it up and drive on. So sucked it up, got through the fight. As soon as we got back to the camp that night, I was checking out Army medics and trying to find out what kind of medications they had to pull me through, because I wasn't going to leave the guys. You're part of a team, and you got soldiers that look up to you. And I soldiered on and made it all the way through the deployment. And then when we got home, got an MRI, back had bulge disc, slip disc, you name it, I've had that kind of disc. But did some physical therapy, some chiropractics, I was paying for chiropractics out of my own pocket just because I wanted to stay in the fight. And I loved it. I mean, I went to the point where I tried out for Special Forces in June of 2005. And that was after, all the chiropractics and building my back up and stuff. I went to selection, didn't make it through selection. And shortly after selection, we come home. Well, I got home, and then it was NTC, and then right back to Iraq in 2005. November of 2005 is when we left. On my second deployment, the whole atmosphere was different. Biggest thing that was different, we did a lot of missions. Sure enough, we were a month from going home. Iraqi truck got hit, and it was pretty bad, and we were pulling around trying to get security with my tank. Next thing I know, it was black smoke. My ears were ringing, everything went into slow motion. I was in the air and slammed up against the loader's hatch, the little skate ring on top, and fell down into the turret. And it was just, everything was in such slow motion, you could see like the individual sand granules. It was crazy. I'd never believe it if I didn't have it happen myself. And first thing I thought was, there went the rest of my back. But you know, just the fight being the fight, you're in the middle of it, and you're down in the turret of your tank going, what's going on? And you're hearing all this gunfire and everything else. So I just crawled my way back up to the hatch and continued to fight. But I wasn't gonna leave the guys. I wasn't gonna leave the fight. It was too important to me. It was more chaotic coming home than it was in the war zone. And I got orders to come to Fort Knox. So I got to Fort Knox. Well, I got married to the girl I was seeing here and there on my way to Fort Knox. So she came with me. Everything's going crazy, you know, new job, new wife, new life. My back was giving me problems, but also I was starting to have some, you know, depressive modes, and wake up in the middle of the night in your bed soaked in sweat. And I wasn't about to say I was having any psychology problems or whatever that word would be, but it was causing problems in my life. My mood was bad, everything was bad. I started drinking heavily, taking pills heavily to deal with the pain and deal with what's going on in my head. And I thought I was doing good, but next thing you know, that my wife talked me into getting into behavioral health, and it took a lot of pushing. But I finally went, and I didn't want to admit all that stuff. I never did. I still don't. But I seen behavioral health and everything. And once my dad caught wind that I was going to behavioral health and getting help for my head issues, he begged my wife for me to get some help for my back, you know, to finally get something done about it. And I knew this time if I got another MRI, I was gonna be done, because I could feel it. So I told my wife, I said, I'll volunteer for recruiting. That way I won't have anybody under me. And as long as the Army gives me orders to go recruiting, they're taking me away from my guys. I'm not just leaving them. As soon as I got to recruiting, I had a very good station commander. And he could tell just by talking to me the pain I was in, and he told me that it was my mission to get better. I had lots of doctor's appointments, everything you could think of to try to get it fixed. And it was just causing more problems. You know, all these things that normally would help someone was putting me down farther and farther, so the drinking got more excessive. And the cool thing about being a recruiter is you were mobile. I was bouncing 3 different states getting pain meds. And, you know, when you're taking them kind of pain meds and drinking as much as I was, I thought I was being normal. Well, I destroyed my first marriage. I destroyed probably a lot of relationships because I was thinking that I was doing the right thing. And finally, the first sergeant said that I was gonna come to the Warrior Transition Unit. Being a recruiter, I didn't have anybody. I was just a base recruiter. I didn't have anybody underneath of me. I wasn't in charge of anybody, but you're still part of a team. And to make that team work, you gotta have all the working pieces. And I felt like I was letting people down because here I am leaving again. So I took it to Congress, and well, they said I can't ever work, and they said I can't even recruit, so I gotta go to the Warrior Transition Unit. And when I got here, it was tough. You know, you're divorced and broken down, didn't want to be here. It's just, it was a different ride. It was just everything's falling in on top of you. Everything that I joined the Army for and found who I was, which was a soldier, and I thought I was a pretty good soldier at that, and everything was falling apart. I just didn't have any idea who I was anymore. Since I've been in the Warrior Transition Battalion, I couldn't even begin to explain a new normal. You know, for almost 8 years, it was always go, 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 go. And then it was time to take care of yourself, and I was lost. And I didn't want to be here, so I was kind of kicking and screaming at first, but I ran into a couple of good people that tried to help me out. The first chaplain that was here, Chaplain Boyle, he really got across to me, and I think that was one of my biggest steps of healing spiritually. But I actually got baptized in June while I was here. That was the beginning of my healing process when I found that. And then it was like after I got baptized, everything started falling in place. A wonderful woman came into my life by losing a tire in front of my apartment. And who would know that we were going to be married a couple months later. For someone to come into a life like mine and support me, I mean, that's where the glue is holding me together. I mean, the past year and a half's been rough, but it just gets rougher and rougher because you don't know what your future holds. You know, they write all this stuff down on paper, and then you find out that you got traumatic brain injury on top of PTSD and your back issues, and you're just finding all these other medical diagnoses that you had no idea of. The healing has been good, you know, through my spirituality, and then the behavioral health around here is excellent. I couldn't ask for anything better, and they've helped me come a long ways. I don't think we ever heal the scars in our heart and our heads. And with my back, this is where I say my spirituality helped, because God made me come here even though I didn't want to. Half my pain's gone. I got a wonderful new wife and family. Everything's coming along. But you still don't know who you are. I still don't know where I'm going. What's my future having hold? What's everything gonna be? You know, by doing this talking, I do a few speeches here and there, and hopefully have people recognize things in people like me, because I wasn't reaching out for help, but all the signs were there. We need to focus on helping others before they get to the stage I'm at, because you don't want to be completely falling apart and try to get yourself put back together. But if you can try to get help early, man up. I think it's took more of a man to face my problems than it did for me to hide them. And I might have still been out there in the fight today, but I think that everything does happen for a reason. That day in '06, I could have been dead, but I walked away. I mean, the tank didn't even have a scratch on it. Just the concussions tore me up. One thing I can say is the warrior within me, it honors me for what I'm gonna be doing, and this is what I hope to do. To be the voice for the invisible wounds, the PTSD, the TBIs, my back. I never had a scar on me after everything that's happened until surgeries. I sit there and say I've never done anything. I've done a lot. And I'm trying to bounce back. My new normal is gonna be a long ways away. I got a lot more healing to do, you know, so there's a lot of question marks. I hope a year from now, maybe you give me a call to sit down and talk to me again, and I'd be able to answer those questions for you.